This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Today on CityCast Madison. It's Thursday, so of course we're dishing on Madison's food scene. What's the best way to say goodbye to a classic Dane County Farmers Market stand? I'm asking because, brace yourself, Chris and Lori's Bakehouse, the longtime Madison fan favorite, announced that this season will be their last on the Capitol Square. And that's after nearly 30 years downtown. Their signature scones and cow-shaped sugar cookies have captured so many market goers' hearts and stomachs. So why are they leaving? We sat down with co-owner Lori Robson to find out, and to ask what the secret is behind their scrumptious scones. It's Thursday, June 13th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about.
Hi, Bianca.
So, Chris and Lori's Bakehouse is having a moment. Y'all are moving off the square after almost 30 years. How are you feeling?
You know, I am feeling good about it. I'm feeling ready. I'm feeling like this is the right time to say our big goodbye. So we are currently 9 weeks in out of the 30. So we're counting down. We've got 21 weeks left for this year.
That's gotta feel so crazy. And you guys you've got your banner up, the farewell year on the square 2024. Yes. I saw Destination Madison named you one of Madison's most iconic eats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a listener, Misty, told us about you and your shop. And I imagine you've been talking with customers about this change every week. What reaction are you getting from your regulars?
Well, at first, people are kind of in shock and kind of in panic mode. Like, why? What's going on? Why is it your last year? And so, we're just like, we've been doing this for 28 years. We started when we were in our mid-20s, and we're now in our mid-50s. And we just feel like, you know what? It's been a great run. It's been an awesome run. But yeah, customers are like, what? But then they're like, well, good for you. You deserve it. And so then our next thing, just to kind of calm the waters, we let them know we're going to be doing the West Side Market next year. So it's not goodbye completely. It's goodbye to the square. And then next year, we're going to just do a smaller market and still have the same products.
Yes. Yeah, so it's not a closing. It's just a location switch. Yeah. And I did see some odes of love and disappointment on the internets. I went and checked out Reddit, and I had saw a couple comments there. One said, "Best scones and cow cookies are such a staple. What a loss." Which, again, you're not going away, but you're leaving that location. Another person said, "First Sweet Street Bakery in 2022, and now Chris and Lori's Bakehouse. There goes my two lifelong favorite stands at the Dane County's Farmers Market." So for those who don't know, why the change?
So, we actually were going to pass it off to some new owners to continue it on. And that was the goal for a while. And so we had some partners that were learning the ropes for a year and a half. And it was just, they didn't know if what they were really getting into until they really got into it. And then, so 2022, that whole year they did it with us. And 2023, we kind of started stepping back and letting them do more and more. And we were doing less and less. So Chris and I were only working like 20 hours a week. And, they kind of felt it then what they were in for. And they made this decision just, separately that they could not do it. And I should back up and say it's a farmer's market rule. You cannot just pass it off. You have to partner for 5 years, or otherwise you cannot pass on your stand. You can't just sell it. And now there's new owners. you have to partner. They have to be owners for 5 years to inherit that stand. So anyway, once they stepped out, Chris and I were like, now that we're down to working 20 hours a week, we don't want to go back to working crazy, crazy hours. So we made the decision last summer, okay, we are going down to just doing the one market, because we were doing both markets, the West Side Community Market and the big one, on the square, Dane County Farmers Market. We're like, you know what? We're going to just do the square. And then we told our West Side customers then, okay, we will be back for 2025. We are only going to do one market at a time. So we are doing 1 year more on the square, and we're doing 1 year at the West Side Market, and beyond that, to be determined. So that's it.
Well, yeah. And it sounds like, the partners that you were bringing on, it was too much work. And I think not everyone really thinks about when they're walking around the market. Maybe it's like, oh, you guys sell scones and cookies. That's cute. Like that, it's a little side gig. And it's like, you're saying it's not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely not for the faint of heart. So, I mean, it's a lot of physical work for one, but then it's a lot just the anxiety of what's the weather going to do this week? How much should we make? If you make too much, you could be left with stuff at the end of the day. And then, okay, we spent all that time and money and made all this stuff, and then it rained. And so it's just a lot. It's hard to explain, but it's a lot.
Yeah. Uncertainty takes a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I definitely recognize as someone who's like, oh, you do a podcast. That's awesome. Like, what's your other job? And I'm like, no, this is my job. It's
right.
it's a lot.
Right.
But let's get into so what you do for folks who haven't had the pleasure of hitting your stand. What are your signature baked goods that you bring to the market?
Okay, so we are known for scones, and our scones are not a traditional scone. They are an Americanized version. They're a Wisconsinized version. Scones for Scotties is what we like to say. So we just, over the years, have had fun coming up with different varieties and different categories. So we have healthy varieties that are made with whole grains, lots of fruit. And then we also have semi-healthy varieties, and we have slightly healthy varieties. We also have gluten-free and vegan varieties. So we have just categories of product. And in each category, we have several varieties. So that's what we're known for mostly. But then, like you mentioned, the cow cookies, we have been doing cow cookies since we started the business in 1995. So cookies and scones.
Yeah. And you cook out in Poynette, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a baking facility in Poynette. We are not open to the public, but we are here baking every day. It's a different task. So, beginning of the week, we're, prepping our ingredients. And so we're chopping rhubarb, that type of thing, because we do a rhubarb oat scone this time of year.
That's the one I had, because I came by. That's when I met you, and and I got the rhubarb scone, and it was very special. Before we get in a little bit further, you guys are iconic because your scones are special. And I can describe why they're special from my experience eating that rhubarb scone. But when you're saying they're a little different and they're Wisconsin, what is it that makes them special?
Okay, so our scones are not dry. They're not biscuity. They're more of a dense muffin, basically. And then the one you had, the rhubarb oat, is in the semi-healthy category. And so it has the rhubarb and it has the oats, but it also has a lot of butter and it has a glaze. So they're sink your teeth into it type of scones.
They're soft.
Right.
They're soft and moist.
Right. They're moist.
But they're not like wet, but they're moist. It's like a perfect, you guys have hit it. You've gotten it was like, what is this?
Yeah. So they're, each category is a little different. So if you tried a whole grain variety, we have a whole grain dark chocolate is another really popular one. And they are really tasty for being in the very healthy category. And then they're honey sweetened. So they have a different texture, of course, different taste, but still really yummy.
And then I saw on your website the range, the scones you have very healthy to slightly healthy, and then the sugar cookies, which I also had, which were pretty good. You call them healthy schmelthy.
Yes, yes. And we also have Sconuts. That was an invention. Do you know about the Sconuts?
No.
So, have you ever heard of Cronuts? Cronuts that came from New York, originally in Manhattan. Dominique Ansel Bakery created this cronut. And so this was a big craze 15 years ago, maybe. And then, so I'm like, let's make Sconuts. And so we took our scone recipe and just modified it where you could roll it out instead of scooping it. And then we cut them out like a donut shape. And then we glaze them so they look like a donut. It's a healthy, schmelty version of a scone. So
Okay.
we do chocolate chip Sconuts. So we're also known for those.
And I love that idea because cronuts are croissant donuts, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
you guys are like, well, we could put these together. I love that.
Yes. So ours
That's
are a
innovative.
scone/donut. Yep.
AKA there's more sugar.
There's more sugar. There's plenty of butter, and we only use butter. So we go through hundreds and hundreds of pounds of butter for our thousands of scones per week. And then
That's the Wisconsin part.
That's the Wisconsin part. Yes, we do not skimp. We do not skimp on the butter, and we do not skimp on the fruit or the chocolate. We're spending a lot of money for good ingredients, for these scones. So that's why, that's the key to success, really, is it's a really good, high quality, yummy product.
And that's why people love you. You're not skimping, and you can tell.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have, and that one that we were talking about, the scone with rhubarb, that's one of your seasonal offerings, right? Like you have
That's right.
seasonal, like it seems like you innovate on your
Yes.
flavors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when it's rhubarb season and we have fresh rhubarb, we get rhubarb from our market friends, other vendors. And then when rhubarb season's over, and then when it's fall, we have some people know us for the pumpkin cream cheese muffins in the fall.
Oh,
And those are so yummy. And then we also have a very healthy pumpkin oat scone that is really yummy too. Also, it's honey sweetened. So it's on the healthy side. And then we do gluten-free options. Also, we do a pumpkin one for that.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
so we just talked about the ingredients, and I'm just picturing what's happening when you're out in Poinet, and you're saying that your production is no joke, and you're kind of talking us through the steps. Can you talk about what your baking week looks like?
Yes. So beginning of the week, we're in prep mode. And so, mixing large amounts of glaze for the scones, getting the ingredients all prepped, putting labels on our packages for the cookies, that type of thing. And then Chris, his first job of the week, he is the cookie roller. So he is doing all the cutout cookies by hand, rolling them out. It's like you would do at home at like Christmas cookies, but we're talking about many, many hours of rolling out cookies and cutting them out. And
Are you guys like strong?
his arms show that he rolls cookies. So
It's like, what do you lift? 200 pounds of dough.
yeah, exactly. Right. So then now we do have some help too with the cookie. We've trained some people to help with the cookie production for baking. And then I'm one of the cookie frosters. So that's done by hand also. So that's, a midweek thing. And then it's all hands on board for the scones when we've got everything prepped. So it's all day Thursday and all day Friday. We are mixing, scooping, baking, glazing, organizing. And so we've got, thankfully, amazing workers that come in on Thursdays. So we have, up to 12 of us working on a Thursday and Friday. And we are just the oven is on from early morning until sometimes 8 p.m. And then we start off on Friday. And so then it's all hands on board also. And, for the gluten-free, we do the gluten-free on at a time when there's no gluten in the air, which means we are also washing everything top to bottom the night before so that there's zero gluten. So then we're doing our gluten-free and then getting that baked, getting it out of the area and getting it, packaged up away from the next batch that will have gluten. So it's a whole thing with the production, but we have a great system, that has evolved over the years. And so next year it'll be, less, but it's still going to be, not nothing. It's still going to take a few hours. There's, probably Fridays, just a long day on Fridays to bake for the West Side.
Well, it's clear that you guys have put so much thought and love into the process and the product, and it shows in because you're one of the favored stands, and you've been there, successfully for decades. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, can you talk about the evolution of your vision for Chris and Lori's Bakehouse, from when you started the business to now?
Oh my gosh. When we started, we had no idea what we were doing. Chris and I both came from a cooking background, and then we worked together in the late 80s, got married in 88, had our daughter in 1990, and by then we had both just independently gone from the cooking side to the baking side. I was working for a grocery store doing the in-store baking, and Chris was doing baking from scratch baking.
And where is this? Where was this?
So my job, it was in Poynette at the grocery store. So I was the bakery manager of our little grocery store in Poynette back then.
Nice.
And that's when our daughter, that's now 34, was a year old. So we're going back. But I had the bright idea, you know what, we're baking for other people. Why don't we start a business? Why don't we start a bakery? And so Chris, he's a good sport in all ways. And he went along with it. And he's like, okay, if that's what you want to do. So we put the wheels in motion. We were, in our early to mid 20s, and we started buying bakery equipment. And then we jumped on this place that was for rent in DeForest. Well, we didn't even know about the farmer's market at this point. We had a bakery cafe that was a ridiculous amount of work. We were there all hours. We were making zero money, but we were still gung-ho, but we were exhausted. But then this is what changed everything. Shout out to our ingredient salesman in DeForest, Kirk Martinkus. He was like, if you sold your stuff at farmer's market on the square, you could sell as much on a Saturday morning as you sell all week in DeForest. And we're like, what? We don't have time to do a farmer's market. But we were curious enough. We'd never been. And we visited the market and we're like, holy crap, this is something. And so we put our names in. This was now 96. So we were like, a year and a half into having our business. And we actually got in. There was no wait list. So we had our staff at our cafe in DeForest. Chris and I went with a card table of various things. I don't even know if we had scones the first day. We probably didn't. We probably had the cutout cookies because we did those, in DeForest. But we had different things. We just tried making this and that, pie pockets, elephant ears, different things, cookies. And the first Saturday, we loaded up what we thought would be good. Well, we were sold out at 9. And
9 a.m.
9 a.m. So
wow.
We're like, there is a future here. And so our oldest daughter was with us, as always. And so she accompanied us to every market, from then on as a child. She was also, helping at the bakery. And, over the years, we figured out that scones were, popular. People wanted more of them. And as soon as we could, we bought these display cases and started experimenting with more and more scones because that was our bestseller. So we're like, you know what? We're going to be known for scones from now on and the cookies. And so then it was fun. I was like experimenting with, well, let's add this and let's add that and let's see how this is and just see what the customers think about this. Really, it was driven by what the customers wanted. Trial and error was where I was at. And
it's worked.
It has completely worked. Yes. We're very, very thrilled with the way it's worked. We'd never imagined that it would, that we'd be in the place we are now. Back
that it would
then,
be your
we had no idea.
lifetime career.
Right. We had no idea that we could really phase out and retire and really spend the rest of our lives not baking all week.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so, you guys are so worthy. Everyone's worthy of rest, but you've given so much to the community and so much love, and you're out there. I want to ask what you think you'll miss most about being downtown on Saturdays after this season, and just like what your experience of the Dane County's farmers market has been like for you.
What am I going to miss? The energy, the customers. There's nothing like it when you hear, for 5-6 hours at a time, how much people love your stuff. And, kids are excited. Kids will come running up and like, here they are. This is my favorite, And,
Aww.
and, what's really cool is I remember the thought that, these kids, this is back, in the 90s, these kids are going to be adults someday and remember this. And it's happened. There's adults now that remember coming to our stand as kids. So, we couldn't ask for any more than that.
Well, it's so beautiful. I'm going to start crying too. I love this.
I honestly did not think I'd start crying talking about that, but it's really cool. And I should mention we have our younger daughter is going to be 24 this year, and she grew up literally with this business. She was born on a Saturday morning, one of the only Saturday mornings that we missed the market. Even though we had the van already loaded, I went into labor and we ended up going to St. Mary's Hospital and having Marinda on a Saturday morning. So she was a week old at her first market. So, our younger daughter literally grew up in the bakery. So I'm gonna miss
cool.
it for sure. But I'm ready to put it behind me, and so is Chris. We're ready for new adventures.
Yes, and the memories are alive and well, and the people that love your stand, and folks can still get your products. You guys are working this season downtown. You're going to do the West Side Market. Can you talk a little bit about how folks can access your products?
Okay, so there's still 21 weeks left. The only one we're not doing on the square this year is July 13th, which is Art Fair on the Square. So that's the only Saturday we will not be there. Otherwise, we're there on the square on North Pinckney until November 9th is our last one on the square. And then next year, we'll be at the West Side Community Market all year. And then because we're baking big every week this year, we are baking enough so we don't sell out early. And that's been a challenge, but we bake enough to get through the whole market. And sometimes we will have some left at the end, of certain varieties, not of everything, but of maybe 4 or 5 different varieties. We'll have some left. We do a pay what you can in Poinette in our parking lot every Saturday this year. And that's just 1 hour every Saturday, 3 till 4, pay what you can.
Well, Lori, this has been the absolute loveliest. It was so lovely meeting you and getting to your stand, and you will definitely be seeing me this summer.
Awesome.
And thank you for honoring us with your story. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
That's Lori Robson, co-owner of Chris and Lori's Bakehouse. If you want to stay up to date with them, head to our show notes for a link to their Facebook page. And in other news, you might have heard me talk about this already, but we are thrilled to announce that we are once again up for Madison Magazine's Best of Madison Awards. Thank you so much if you nominated us. And now it's time for the final round of voting. So would you consider taking a moment to vote for us? We're up for Madison's Best Local Podcasts, and our newsletter, Madison Minutes, is up for the Best Local News website. If you love what we do, let us know by voting. Thanks so much, and we'll drop a link in our show notes. That's all for today here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with someone you're sweet on? All right, we'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Ciao.